That's it. That's the most practical thing. But thank God for source material. Thank God people aren't allowed to just make stuff up. I mean, they do it anyways. But if we didn't have anything to go by, we could never make things better. All you guys right now could open up Surah Bia, chapter 14 of the Rambam. Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah was Siman 267. Yevamot 57. Take it to the rabbi and say, this is what the halacha is. I remember I had an interview with Rabbi David Bar Chaim. So we agree on a lot, but we don't agree on the treatment of converts. He said that he believes it benefits Gentiles not to convert, to remain Noahides. And that if someone would come to him to convert, he would tell him to consider becoming a Noahide. I left it toward the end of our interview, and I said, I know that you say this, but doesn't the halacha say that when someone comes to convert, you don't mention the 7 laws to him? It says the opposite. The halacha says, and the Rambam quotes it like this because people consider this a contradiction of the Rambam because he says something else different elsewhere where he speaks his own personal opinion, but he's a codifier, so he's bringing down the halacha. The halacha is that you tell a convert that only Israelites have a share in the world to come in order to encourage him to convert. It never says that you tell him, why would you want to convert when you could be a Noahide and get a share in the world to come? Now, I understand the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim says one thing, and in Hilchos Tshuva says the same thing, but Hilchos Malachim is not a halacha sefer. Hilchos Tshuva is not a halacha sefer. Surah Bia is dealing with what you do. Halacha is not what you feel, is what you do. Halacha le'maaseh. What do you do when someone comes to convert? This is what you must do. So I told him, if the halacha tells you to do this and you're doing that, aren't you violating the halacha? He stopped for a second. He's like, oh, well, we have to apply it to times of today. Nonsense. He couldn't answer that question. You're breaking the halacha if you're encouraging someone to be a Gentile when they come to convert. You're supposed to tell them that only Jews have a share in the world to come to encourage them to convert. If you go to any Chabad rabbi nowadays and tell them you want to convert, they'll say, why would you want to convert when you could get a share in the world to come by keeping the 7 laws, which is not a halacha. No halachas deal with heaven. Well, even though there's halacha to tell them that only Jews get a share in the world to come, there's no halacha that deals with heaven, which means that you have to believe even in heaven. So for you to feel telling someone a medrash, because it's only a medrash that a Gentile gets a share in the world to come for keeping 7 laws. No, the halacha is that the 7 laws were developed by the Sanhedrin to adjudicate Gentiles living on Jewish lands. Clearly, if a Gentile never accepted the Torah, he shouldn't be adjudicated by the Torah. A Gentile could wear shatnez. A Gentile could eat pork. He never accepted these laws. No, but if we're going to tolerate Gentiles in our midst, we're going to set a standard for them of 7 laws to separate them from the animal or to help them elevate themselves above the animal. That's it. That's the 7 laws. Now, like everything metaphysical in the Jewish world, it once began as a dry law. So the notion of being a good Gentile amongst Jews got twisted into, no, if you keep these laws, you're like the high priest. Sounds stupid, right? Someone who keeps the 7 laws is on the level of the high priest who has hundreds of laws. I mean, honestly, is anyone going to believe that? Does anyone hearing my voice today, ethically, do you believe that someone could be considered righteous on this planet by only keeping 7 laws? Righteous. If 7 laws makes you righteous, then righteousness means nothing, okay? Because any idiot could keep these 7 laws. Ethically, any idiot could keep those 7 laws. Now, how can you even have an understanding of a high priest, someone who's on such a high level of a Jew? I mean, forget even just a high priest, just a simple Israel who strives every day to please the Creator, to reach that level of holiness, of righteousness. And some Gentile is considered righteous just by keeping 7 laws. Nobody believes that medrash. No one takes that seriously. You have to be an idiot to take it seriously, okay? If 7 laws makes you righteous, then righteousness means nothing. There's a lot of people who keep more than 7 laws and are pieces of crap. Let's understand that there are midrashim, and you're not meant to take every medrash literally. Something else you could tell your rabbi. Ask him, Rabbi, like, do you accept all midrashim as true? I guarantee you he's going to say, no, of course not. So ask him, what is your criteria for what medrash you accept as true and what medrash you accept as nonsensical and foolish? What tool, how do you distinguish? He's not going to have an answer for it because the way he distinguishes is by what everyone else does. Well, everyone accepts this medrash, and not everyone accepts that medrash, but they're all midrashim. There's no system in the Talmud to distinguish between an accepted medrash and a non-accepted medrash. So then tell them, well, if you're not commanded to accept every medrash, why do you expect me to believe that I'll have a share in the world to come by keeping 7 laws when that's also a medrash? See, this is interesting. There's things that rabbis throw on Gentiles that they would never apply to themselves. A rabbi would not eat a French fry from an unreliable hashkacha, but he's going to offer you a medrash that says that if you keep 7 laws, you'll make it to heaven. Now, clearly, the notion of heaven doesn't appear in the Torah in general. I believe in heaven. I don't think the Torah requires me to believe in heaven. Fine. But you're going to put the person's eternity in a box labeled medrash and expect them to be happy with that. It's because these Noad rabbis will never teach the distinction between a medrash and halacha and a minhag, agadah, because that's the only logical conclusion. If the rabbi would honestly teach what a medrash is, I'll tell you what a medrash is now anyways. A medrash, again, the proper word is agadah. The notion of a midrash is a later word. Midrash really means from the Torah, because we have a whole body of literature called midrashei halacha. That means it's midrash from the drash. The drash is the chumash. But this is what's called midrashei agadah. But like versus midrashei halacha. Fine. A midrash is anything in rabbinic literature that's not of a legal nature. If it's not dealing with the halacha, it's considered midrash. Every tale that could be beautiful, could be silly. It really runs the gamut of impressive and stupid. Everything that's descriptive and not prescriptive, this is what midrash is. Now, if you guys really internalize this message, you'll stop listening to any Noahide class, anything that's built off of opinion, because that's not authoritative. That's not obligatory to believe. Halacha is what you do. Torah is also what you do and what you believe. Belief has to come from the Torah. The rabbis only have the authority in what you do. The court is there to create laws for you to do. You're not commanded to believe what your rabbi tells you, but you're commanded to believe what the rabbis, not the rabbis of the day, the rabbis of the Talmud, not even the rabbis in the Talmud, the rabbis in the Mishnah, the rabbis who had smicha, according to Deuteronomy chapter 17, Deuteronomy chapter 1, Numbers chapter 22, God told Moses to establish a court of 70 elders, 71 with themselves. He said that if you disobey them, it's like disobeying God himself. So God put you under their authority. They're flesh and blood. They make mistakes. Even the Talmud has a whole tractate of the mistakes of the elders, of the Zakanim, of the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, the Sanhedrin. Of course, Kabbalists nowadays teach these guys don't make mistakes. This is a later notion, right? With the notion of a Sadiq, according to the Rambam, what Judaism was still saying was just someone whose good deeds outweighed his bad deeds. Now a Sadiq is someone who doesn't make any mistakes. You're only commanded to do what they tell you to do, not belief. Belief always stems from the Torah to be authoritative. We have to believe what the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, I'm not even saying the prophets and the writings, because it was the rabbis who canonized and many times even wrote these books. But the Chumash is our source for spirituality. Halacha, the Mishnah, is our source for how you live out Judaism, the consensus on how do you keep Shabbat, how do you keep Yom Kippur. There has to be a consensus, especially like if there's a death penalty for breaking these laws. God can't tell you, put people to death. He can't tell the court to put Sabbath breakers to death if there isn't a clear understanding of what keeping the Sabbath is. So the court developed like 39 melachot, 39 categories of prohibited labor. Fine. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm going to rant. All right.
Well, we had João from Brazil, my good friend. If you have, he has.
Oi.